Now, this is also going to be a bit of a short video. I'd like to talk a little bit about knot multiplicity. Now, multiplicity on a given knot means that you have more than one knot, or isoparm if you prefer, stacked right on top of one another. And what is the advantage of this? Well, if I go into the side view and we create a CV curve, I can grab, say, a curve point anywhere along the curve, maybe here, and let's go to Insert Knot, and at the selection, we'll insert 3 separate knots. So what I've just done is I have put 3 knots all right on top of each other at the location of this CV. In fact, if I go to Edit Points, which is another word for knot, by the way, you can see as I walk along my my edit points, with my arrow keys, you'll notice I have 1, 2, 3. Notice I hit that button 4 times before I can actually move off. That's because I have 3 separate knots all stacked right on top of one another. Now, what's the benefit of working this way? Well, it gives you the ability to have a crease in your curve. So now your curve no longer needs to be perfectly curvy. It can have a nice sharp kink in it, which can come in handy. It is true. There may be times when you might need that. But when you're creating nice, clean NURB surfaces, in most cases you're going to be making a uniform surface. So, for example, if I were to take this curve, duplicate it, grab the 2 curves, and loft, you'll notice that my newly created surface also has that razor-sharp edge in it, and you may need that razor-sharp edge. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to have it here. You very well might need it, but having a surface with multiple knots in one place is going to make your object more difficult to texture. It's going to be more difficult to skin. And just in general, when working, I advise you to use uniform surfaces, and this is not a uniform surface. If you come in and rebuild this, switch on uniform, we'll go ahead and keep CV, so we're not really changing the topology too much. And we rebuild, boom. Notice we lose that razor-sharp kink. We now have a uniform surface, but we don't have that razor-sharp edge anymore. So the question becomes, if you're not going to be using multi-knots that much, and I'm not saying never use them, I'm just saying that if you like to stick with uniform surfaces, you can't use them. How do you create that razor-sharp edge? Remember that a patch model object is going to be made of multiple NURBS patches. So if you undo this, so we get all the way back to our razor-sharp edge, remember that you can grab an isoparm, even like this one right here, where our edge happens to be, we can cut that, and we can keep this as 2 separate uniform surfaces. So I can go to Edit NURBS, Rebuild Surfaces, like so. I still have my razor-sharp edge, but I have a nice, clean, uniform surface and another nice, clean, uniform surface. Now, again, just to reiterate, I'm not saying that you should never use multi-knots. I am saying that most of the time when you're modeling, you're going to find that uniform surfaces are the way to go to get a nice, clean result. And because of that, using multi-knots is not something you're going to be doing very often. That's going to wrap things up for this discussion. Thanks a lot.